Okay, what's up, guys? King Kunal here, and today we'll be analyzing the remainder of the FIDE Candidates Tournament. Just reminding you that Javokhir Sindarov is leading with 6 out of 7. Sorry, yeah, 6 out of 7 points going into round 8, and his closest rival is Fabiano Caruana, who is on 4.5. Actually, wait, no, he's on 4 points, uh, on +1, and Sindarov is on +5. Now, joining me for this analysis is some familiar faces. Hello, everyone.
Hey YouTube.
Hello.
Yeah, these are some fellow experts at chess from UCR's chess club. They are one of the best players. They've beaten me in games there. So yeah, I believe their
Oh,
their
thank you for the
insight their
final
their in
position.
their insight on these games will be very meaningful. But anyways, so going into round 10, or sorry, round 8, Sindhara with the black pieces, and he's playing his round 1 opponent who gave him a tough time in the first game, but blundered under time pressure and threw away the win or the advantage and ended up losing. And you guys can see already from the opening, it's quite an unusual English variation. White has fianchettoed out his bishop, trying to take control of this long diagonal, and maybe at a later stage, if black takes, this bishop's scope will be enhanced over here.
Mm,
So, yeah, large standard development so far, and Sintarov plays this good a4, a5, a5 idea, with the idea of following it up with a4 to prevent any potential queenside expansion from white. And yeah, as shown, this might be a curious move, exchanging bishop for knight, but it does give black control of this e4 square more. And as these
I think
pawns,
it's just because the black bishop is kind of bad in this position. Because all
yeah,
of white's pawns are in dark squares.
yeah,
So
that is the
the
thing. So
bishop is
there's
very
only
little.
one side who's better here is white, because black has given away his good bishop, but in exchange for some more control over e4, but and also isolating this a pawn, but white now has this long diagonal, and also white has the lead in development. The rooks are connected. Again, always keep your rooks connected in chess. It'll do you good. That's why you always develop as early as possible. Anyways, proceeding on. So black's task is to get his pieces in the game. So he proceeds by first gaining a tempo on white's queen. The queen falls back. The bishop comes out. So black is trying to develop. And rook c1, defending the pawn from the knight takes. And getting on a half open file, obviously, because you want to work with
oh,
the queen. And black does a really good move here. Bishop c6, challenging white's best piece. So what do you guys think so far?
Pretty good.
Yeah,
Everything makes sense.
I just realized I had
yeah.
analysis on by mistake.
Oh, hello. Oh, I thought that was normal.
No,
Oh,
I
I
do not
guess.
want analysis on, because we're gonna
Oh.
go off our own insight here. But this
Okay.
does
So,
seem fairly logical. White has a
wait. So black is better here, or what was? White
well,
is better. No.
Equal. It's just completely
it's
equal.
just
Equal
mostly
here.
equal,
Okay.
yeah, because black
Because
has just as good as control of the center that white does, and the only advantage
black's
white.
goal. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying black's goal in the opening was to equalize. Black isn't trying to like gain any sort of advantage here. Black is just trying to make the game as equal as possible because they start with the black pieces and it's kind of hard to get an advantage, especially if you're playing against the grandmaster. You have to play some like weird random variation.
You have to basically gamble.
Yeah.
So white takes the knight, black takes the bishop, king takes back. It is possible to move the knight back, but it doesn't make any sense because black has now
Yeah.
conquered the light
Okay.
square diagonals.
Yeah.
And so the king takes, the queen moves up, checks, rook takes, queen takes. Now white has actually won a pawn here, but this queen cuts across the diagonal so well, and this bishop is such a bad piece that there's actually very little that white can actually do, and you'll see that in the upcoming moves. And black plays excellently here, giving his king a square to escape, and also providing a potential outpost for this knight on g4. Queen comes here, the queen moves back, getting ready to follow up with uh, taking the queen. and the rook is defended.
Oh,
I was gonna say something else, and then I noticed the queen is hanging. Queen e8. So the queen moves up. The queen comes back. The queen comes back. The queen moves back. The queen comes back, and we have a threefold repetition. So not really much.
wait, they
playing.
draw this?
Yes, they did.
I mean, for both of them, it's desired outcome.
Yeah, looking at the tournament situation, Andre doesn't want to suffer a loss to the tournament leader again by taking a risk, and Sindarov doesn't really feel like pressing too hard because he's already at +5.
Wait, but ignoring the tournament condition, this game is
This game could be played on more. I feel
But
like.
let me see, is black better now in this position though?
Well, if you want to take
Right,
a look
with
at
the
the
bishop.
analysis, actually, white is a
But
little.
it's even
It's
still.
basically still pretty much even. You
Hmm.
can see this extra pawn that white has is meaningless because it's not doing.
Wait, is there? I mean, so there's no other. I mean, okay.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, we could just make a passing move, let's say h4, and then rook here, adding pressure here. Basically, white can't really make any progress because all his pawns are on dark squares. So black is pretty much constructed a blockade. So you can't really advance anything. This pawn is defended. This bishop is a really bad piece because it's just blocked in. So hence the draw offer.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, moving on. This is actually the first moment in the tournament where I actually felt maybe... Oh, I should remind you that in Game 8, Anish Giri actually beat Caruana in a very nice game. He did make a mistake near the end, but Caruana, in time pressure, failed to capitalize on the drawing chance and blew the game to a beautiful loss, actually. He lost very beautifully. It was I feel like if I lost that way to Anish Giri, I would also smile a little bit. I just will take a quick moment to show you a little bit of that game. Caruana versus Giri. Where is that at? Oh, sorry, no. Caruana lost to Nakamura in this round. In an endgame.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in a rook endgame. Sorry, he loses to Anish Giri this round. That's a little bit of a spoiler.
How exciting.
But this is actually like one of the turning points in the candidates where people are like, maybe it's not entirely over for other competing candidates because Sindarov is playing black against Matatias Blue Bomb, who has only lost one game so far in the tournament. So you can see all pretty natural stuff here, although white does make a little inaccuracy over here by castling queenside. This actually shocked.
Oh,
Yeah,
castle queenside.
yeah, it's a pretty risky decision because I think he was trying to be ambitious, but
Yeah, I can see that.
yeah, it's leaving the king on this open C file and B file is very consequential. So you better be knowing what you're doing. So the queen immediately backs up out of the rook's sight and applies pressure down this file. If you notice, black's pieces are very good as well. This bishop is on a diagonal that's open. The knight is pressurizing white's center. And so white just proceeds with development. This is an important moment in the game. Actually, Sindarov spots an idea here. The idea behind g4 is obviously to push the knight out of the way and launch an attack with the other pawn. But it's actually not going anywhere. The knight drops back, defending g7, but also getting ready to hop to d6, where it can eye crease squares on the queen side and also apply pressure to white's center. So it's a much better piece than it was on f6. So white has kind of weakened his own diagonal and also helped out black, rerouting this knight to a better position. And you can see that black is just now getting ready to push this pawn all the way down to a3 and create weaknesses. So white needs to trade pieces if he has some hope of surviving, but this is actually looking
that's pretty
bad.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you
that's
guys think?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I guess it's slightly fortunate that there's no pawn on the B file. But like, if there was a pawn on the B file, it'd be worse. For white, but yeah, this looks pretty scary.
Yeah, the thing is, not only is his queen side being pressured, but he still has to deal with the pressure in the center. Like black is still playing in the center and the queen and on the side that the king is on.
Hmm.
So obviously the idea behind queen d4 is to prevent the knight from moving, because then the queens can be exchanged. But white is now having to deal with this threat of mate here, or not mate, but
Okay.
not necessarily mate.
Oh, so he takes this or what?
Well, actually, what he plays is b3. Now,
Oh, okay.
David,
Okay,
what
never
would
mind.
you play here immediately after?
As black,
Yeah,
I mean, instinctually, you really want to play like a4 or something. I mean,
exactly.
without like
A4
thinking.
in an instant. A4 was played in an instant. If you notice the time situation, just like last 7 rounds, he's again way up on time. So knight takes a4. There is an option here to actually go b4, queen takes, rook takes, and go into a worse endgame where
All
you
right.
have to give up a pawn. But practically speaking, blue bomb decided to take with the knight. Oops.
Yeah.
Wait, they drew this? Oh my goodness.
And I spoiled it, didn't I? Ha 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 ha.
Wait, they
Okay.
drew this?
Yes, and
Okay,
very
whatever.
quickly here, Sindarov took on a4, which is a mistake. Or sorry, no. Yeah, he did take on a4, which is a mistake. He should have played...
Rook d8? I don't know.
It's a very quiet move. I do want to see if you guys are able to think about it. But I will give
D8's
you a
too
little...
slow.
I will give you viewers a little logic. Because if you're attacking, you
Can't play rook d8.
you never want to trade queens if you're attacking, because if your king is safe and his
That's
king is
the thing.
exposed, it makes no sense
I
for you
thought
to
like
trade
queen
queens.
b7 or something. That's
Exactly.
my
Queen
first.
b7 here is the move.
Yeah.
Queen a5 is
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
an option, but this is way more direct because it applies pressure down this file. And after rook e1, bishop takes a4, just kills white.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
after
Now
bishop takes
it's.
a4, what's the move here?
I
Queen
mean,
e1.
yeah. There's checkmate. There's
No,
checkmate with
you
queen
don't even have
b1.
to do queen b1. c5 kills
Oh,
it.
you could do see. Really?
c5, and if queen takes...
Wait. So there's no checkmate on queen b1?
There isn't actually. The king can run away this. The king can run away with this
Hey,
pawn. So the trick is
crazy.
that if queen
Oh.
takes c5, queen b2, and the queen also has to hang on to the bishop. And the point
Oh,
you guys will see the point very shortly is after queen c3, rook takes a4. You're gonna get the
I
same
mean,
thing anyways, and you've just
yeah.
recovered the
That way
bishop
it's
anyways.
yeah.
And you can
Yeah. I
never
mean,
take
now
here because rook c8
everything's
and
through.
also queen b2.
No, checkmate. You can't take because
Yeah,
queen b2
checkmate
checkmate.
also.
But
But like if
now
the
you have
checkmate was
like, every
similar,
threat ever now.
there's
You have
like
like rook c4. You have everything now as black.
this is like everything is good for black. There's also this pawn hanging.
Yeah.
There's this pawn hanging. So the game would have been lost shortly after that. But um, instead of that, bishop takes a4 is played. And Sindarov actually miscalculated. He thought he was winning a pawn here or something. I don't know what pawn he thought he was winning because he's not even winning. He's not even up a pawn here. But he said he missed f5, which basically exchanged white's pawns that were weak on the fourth rank from the rook. And eventually
Yeah,
we
now this
watched
is
this
just
game
That was
endgame.
just a boring draw. Yeah.
being a draw. The Sindarov
There's
did
no.
try and push. They tried to box this king in over here, but it's
Uh-huh.
not gonna really lead to anything. White basically trades off the kingside pawns, and even though he ends up having to give up the b3 pawn, there's just no way for black to win this. His king is too far, and a draw. And with that,
Oopsie.
Anish Giri actually won his game, so he moved to +2. And Caruana moved back to 50%. So he was
Twice, bro.
pretty much out of contention at that point. And so Sindarov going into game 10 against Pragnananda was a little shaken. He was a little bit upset at himself for missing that win. So who knows? If he lost this game and Giri drew or won, then the candidates might get more interesting. So let's dive into it. I remember watching this game live right in the morning. And it was a very theorized
Yeah.
opening. He went
I
straight
remember this
for
game.
Giri, and he was supposed to play bishop e5, and he said he'd be playing for a two-way result, two results, basically meaning white wins or white draws. But instead, he misremembered his preparation and played bishop d3. So h5 came, bishop d3. This is also a line, by the way. Bishop to g3 is also a line. I forgot to turn this engine off. H4, which also obviously hits the bishop, and bishop takes knight, pawn takes, queen takes, king e8. It's important not to block with the bishop because I think bishop d5, or sorry, bishop to e5, and if f6 trying to trap the bishop, Then comes knight takes g5, pawn takes bishop, knight to e6, boom, queen trapped.
You.
Yeah, so that's the trick of this opening. That's why instead of that, Pragnananda had to move his king away. Obviously, if the queen came to e8, the bishop would be able to take the pawn. So that's the only
Go,
other option.
bro.
So now, actually, white does lose a piece. So he takes a pawn again on the king side, and black
What the?
takes out another attacking piece that white could have used, which is a knight. Takes out the bishop with the knight, and then takes the knight on g5,
Oh.
and white goes f4. So white is down a piece here, but in return he has a lead in development and a bunch of pawns attacking on the king side. So black actually still has to play incredibly precisely. Now with force, this should actually lead to a draw. So h3 is a good move. Rook d1 again, bringing a piece into the game with tempo, can't be bad. Queen e7, g3. And now, after pawn takes, what would you guys play?
I'd consider rook f1 maybe.
I mean,
Rook
but
f1,
like,
you have the right idea, but there's another way of bringing a
what
rook to f1.
are these?
Oh,
But
castle.
I
Oh
would
yeah, I
love
forgot
to
there's
have the
castle.
one my
Yes.
pawns
There's
there.
castle in there.
There you go,
I would
castles.
love.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the same
okay.
thing.
You
That's the
actually
same
just
thing.
castle, which basically brings a piece, another piece of the game, threatening to give a check. And again, Pragnananda is already at 44 minutes on move 20. So he's going to have to manage his time very well. Rook h6 is a must move because not only does it create space for the king here, but it defends the e6 square and also the f6 square and g6 square from these queen and rook pieces so that they don't enter. Now, rook takes f4 check and rook f1. The idea is obviously to infiltrate here eventually.
Yeah.
And right here is where Pragnananda blunders. He should have played. There are two options here. One is impossible for even a grandmaster to spot under such pressure is a5.
What is a5 doing?
a5 allows the rook to develop this way. Now,
That
that is very
Is that
intermittent.
quick enough? I guess that's quick enough.
It is actually quick enough. But the other option, obviously, is bishop e6 to defend the f7 square. And after rook f6, I think rook f6 is the move here.
rook f6 looks very scary.
Black has to find queen h7, offering the exchange, and white is actually forced to take because if he moves his queen elsewhere, then black can actually afford to trade rooks now, and also,
Wait, what about queen takes b7?
Queen takes b7. Queen takes b7 allows for let me think.
Maybe
There was something to do. Let me just.
Maybe just rook d8.
I think black was still
I think it's just rook d8. I guess it's
Yeah,
just rook
you're
d8.
here.
Yeah, I guess it's just...
Yeah, this queen don't forget defends over here.
Because black is still up a
Queen
piece.
Queen can never leave that diagonal because of queen e4 ideas and rook d1.
Yeah.
So instead, bishop e6. Queen h7, you have to take this. Followed by king takes, rook takes, king takes, rook f6, king g5 takes. And now after rook d8, black actually is down 2 pawns, but he has more than enough counterplay to equalize this game because if this h2 pawn ever drops, this pawn is very close to queening, and white's pawns are all isolated. So that would have been the way to draw there, but instead, for some reason, I actually didn't even understand this move at all during the game. I mean, naturally, your first instinct would anyways be to protect the f7 square, so I didn't.
Yeah, just get your rook a bit more free. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't understand why this was played at all. Like, it doesn't do anything. It's a worse.
He played.
I think his idea was to go here.
Yeah,
he might have missed that.
He
Might have missed the idea. So rook f7 takes. Now he might think, oh, 2 rooks and a bishop against a queen, that's enough. But after queen f4 check, it's a fork. So the king has to go to g7 to defend the rook. Queen g5. King has to keep defending the rook.
Oh, and there's a check on e7.
And then takes the bishop. And the same thing would have happened if it went to the king went to g6 after queen f4 check. Queen f4 check, king g6. Then if queen f6 check, and if the king goes to h5 or h7, then queen f7 check picks up the bishop. And so basically, there was nothing left for white. Black. He's down too much material. He's down too many pawns. And eventually he managed to push, and basically picked up this h3 pawn and brought his king forward. You can't take this pawn because of queen h6, check, picking up the rook, and that will be a winning king and pawn endgame. So instead he has to keep the pawns around, and in the meantime white is just pushing his pawns to victory and advancing this pawn. Again, you still can't take because queen h7 gives you a winning king and pawn endgame, and eventually black is forced to resign. Now there was a very funny way to win here, which I don't know if Sindarov saw, but maybe he just didn't want to risk it. But queen h7 check actually just kills the game, followed by queen takes e7 and h7. The rook is prevented from stopping this pawn and queening in both ways. It's a very funny way to win. But the way he chose was also fine. Still threatening queen takes e7. And after rook g8, queen d5 check. Another pawn is falling. This rook has to be defended, so king f8 is the only move. Or even just rook f8, rook e6. But you can just do whatever here. You can play h7. You can play king f4, g5, take a bunch of pawns. So this is obviously over. And with that, Javokhir went to +6, which meant he was basically chilling in this tournament. It was Giri was his closest competitor who was on +2, and he didn't manage to win his game in round 10. He only drew against what's his name, Hikaru Nakamura, the wild card, kind of like the you never know unpredictable tournament player. Not having a good tournament himself, obviously, was Nakamura. Anyways, moving on to round 11, probably the last big test for um Javokhir Sindarov. How do I move tabs? Yeah. Okay. Kicking things off with this game. Caruana was revealed after the game that he didn't really prepare anything for this game or care at all. So I was actually kind of surprised that this was the one that... This is all very standard opening theory in the Catalan. White gives up his bishop, black gives up his bishop. And what do you guys think of this position so far?
Pretty dry.
Yeah.
I mean, white has an open file, but otherwise nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing's really happening.
white
to
has
be honest.
actually given away his b2 pawn. In compensation, he has a b file, and also these pawns are all split. So there's really not much going on, and white has a nice center position. But there isn't really much going on until now.
But he just moved his bishop forward and moved it back immediately after.
Well, the point of moving the bishop forward was to provoke d5, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, bishop c6 covers the b7 square, so the rook can't come there. If earlier, if the rook went to b7, actually, then there's actually bishop. I think c6, and I think rook a8's a move. Although I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that's an idea though.
Wait, why would they not? Why would they put the rook on a7? It's like a very weird
Well,
square.
The goal was to obviously stay on the 7th rank. That's what I was kind of highlighting. The bishop came to c6 to prevent that.
Alright.
Yeah, basically d5 provoked, and he takes another pawn, and then e5 was a little bit of a misstep. Actually, one of the best moves that everybody was expecting actually was just rook c8, bishop takes, or white has to exchange, and you go into a about equal endgame. And black is actually up a pawn, but yeah, it's not a very good pawn structure. Black has a bad bishop, so it's roughly equal, I'd say. I was a little surprised by the fact that he did not go for this. I think what he ended up missing was this move, which was rook c5, which basically forces black to play f6, followed by rook c6, forking bishop and pawn. And after king f7 takes a6, white is actually the only one pressing for a win because of this passed a pawn that can't be blockaded like white's knight blockades this pawn. If he can get the king in and support that, that will be very damaging for black. But over here, Caruana falters and plays g4, allowing black to play h5 and damage white's kingside structure. Obviously, he didn't take pawn because rook takes d7, but once this rook leaves, this king is ready to go here, 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 and eat everything. And you'll see this comes very critical later in the game because this is another key calculation. Can you trade rooks here? You actually can, as black. Because if the pawn advances, you can take. You can stop the pawn from advancing. And how? Knight e4, king h4, knight c5, king h3, a6. Bishop takes a6, knight takes, king takes h2, king c3. And only move that draws here is e4. Quite an incredible move. Because if
That's
pawn
pretty
takes,
nice.
g5, g4, g3, g2, g1. And if king takes, pawn, king takes, f3 is coming. And lastly, if
Pawn push.
Yeah. Then you can actually
Just G5.
force the issue with g5. And you're essentially, again, you can't push because g5, g4. Yeah, g4 will lead to a win. Or not a win, but a draw.
The draw, yeah.
Only black is pushing for a win there. So instead, rook c6 was played. The bishop comes to f7, again adding more pressure to this pawn, but also sticking around to support this pawn. a4, the king tries to get over, but black has actually calculated, obviously threatening a fork here. And so that's blocked. But black has calculated that he can actually bring his king in and gobble up these two pawns. He doesn't even need to bother with this pawn because this pawn is not as threatening as these two. So actually a very good decision from black here. And white calculates for about 40 minutes and finds nothing, plays rook c5. The king comes in, advances. That pawn looks like it's getting far, but after this, rook a8, 6 check, king b4, and bishop e8 is the only move to draw because it threatens this knight, which protects the pawn. And if rook c8, then I believe bishop takes b5, a8 queen, and
yeah, this is a draw.
c3.
Yeah.
And if king takes, simply c2, and if rook c8, king d2, and you can only give a perpetual check, or you can give up this, but there's no way
Wait.
king pawn ending.
Wait, whoa, rook d8 and then
Rook d8, king takes.
I can take. Sorry. Yeah.
I know the was.
Yeah.
Who am I hearing in the back?
I feel like that's his roommate. I'm not sure though.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically rook c8 results in like it's just gonna be a repetition. Otherwise, after c3, if you don't and you take this, then this bishop is gobbling this, and the next is gobbling that, and that's just a draw. So instead, white tried rook c7. Now let me reload this thing quickly. Black took a pawn. Knight checked. King took another pawn. Rook took this pawn. This pawn advanced. The rook obviously forks bishop and pawn. If the bishop comes to c6, it's a little bit tricky after rook e6. So I think Sindarov did the correct choice here. And just instead of that, he just sacked that bishop and took the pawn. Rook f8, rook h7, takes, king g2, and this pawn is being collected. And a rook and knight, as you guys know, is that a win against just a rook? Rook and knight against rook is a theoretical draw. Very easy, actually. It's not even as hard as a rook and bishop against rook. So white, understanding that, just offered the trade, and the draw was agreed here. Okay, with that, the tournament was basically over because Anish Giri failed to capitalize on a promising position against Andrei Esipienko, who was one of the weakest players in the tournament. And there's just a few rounds to go. I'll showcase that for like just the move's sake. Hikaru Nakamura drew his game against Sindarov in 35 minutes, and they shook hands and laughed as they went off their tables, as they left the table to go home and enjoy their vacation. And they repeated moves in about 30 minutes and went home. And the next round, again, Anish Giri failed to capitalize in a winning position against Wei Yi and blundered a threefold repetition. So Anish Giri even in this game, had no hopes of equalizing the score. And so subsequently a drawn position was reached after Sindarov smartly went into an endgame, assessing this position as equal. And as you can see, the engines just give it a 0. And rook e6. And his goal is obviously just to eliminate white's central pawn and isolate it. So that does happen. And d3 check, followed by bishop c7, takes, is coming. There's nothing to really stop it. After king f2, bishop takes e5, you can't play rook e1 because bishop d4 check and rook f5, followed by rook takes e1. So, I do want your guys' thoughts on this endgame. How do you assess this?
White should win, no?
It's a draw.
It is a draw, but black does have to be a
I
little
mean, why?
careful because his pawns are doubled.
I mean, when I say that, I just mean that white. I would just favor white's position. Yeah,
That is 100% true, but obviously
White has like a human slight advantage, but theoretically, it's pretty hard to lose this. White if you're. As black if you don't make any big
I do want to show you guys an instructive technique in this endgame, though. Sindarov actually plays rook h2, allows g5, and he takes it. He could have played h5, which if rook f6, then you get this pawn, I get that pawn. But instead, he just speeds things up. He wants to go home, right? Remember, he already wants to win the tournament. So he's, by the way, I should mention, he's already at 9 points here. So if a draw would bring him at 9.5, and Geary would only have 7.5, so he would win the tournament with a round to go, like a spare round. So he doesn't even have to worry. And he just takes this pawn. Rook f6, obviously, and then pawn takes back. So you can't actually defend this pawn. But why is this a draw? You guys are about to see. Rook g2. Now you have to take this pawn. There's no turning back. Otherwise, black just takes this pawn. So you have to take that pawn and then a6. The rook is too passive. It's forced to defend this pawn. The king can't move. It's totally boxed in. And if b4, what's the move here?
Check with the rook and then you win the pawn.
Exactly. And then black is literally just even material. So there's nothing for white there. And after rook g8, just simply king a7 and you shuffle back between these two squares.
Okay, yeah.
White sits there and is unable to do anything. Now there is one cool thing I wanted to show you. Is if in this position g6, king b7, g7, what happens if you go king c7 as a waiting move?
Now you can go rook a8. Yeah, now rook a8.
Exactly. And rook g7.
And it takes and then.
Okay, yeah, but they're not gonna do that. I mean, they're not gonna do that.
Yeah, he's obviously not gonna. Well, I do want to point out.
I swindled the guy in over the board game with that exact thing.
Really?
I was up a pawn in a drawn endgame. It's exactly this type of position, and he messed up and he played.
That's why you guys gotta. That's why everyone should know their endgame. One funny thing is, I think king b6. What do you do if I play king b6? Are you winning?
I mean, yeah. You just check, and then check.
Okay, I'm going back.
And then.
No, it's not. You guys know how to draw this?
Oh, it is. It is a draw. Actually, yeah, it's forced draw. Yeah. You're right.
There you go.
So you have to promote to some BS. Wait, you promote to a knight. You don't promote to a queen.
No. It doesn't. Oh well.
No, you can promote.
If you promote to a knight, then the king takes the.
I'm joking.
You just found a way to lose.
I'm joking.
So, anyways, the game did end up obviously like this, and with that, Sindarov secured tournament victory. And moving on to the last round, I think this game was over in about 10 minutes. As you guys saw the live stream, the game ended in about 10 minutes, and Hikaru Nakamura looked at the game in around this position over here with the bishops traded. And he looked over at the board position, and he started smiling and laughing that the game ended so fast, because it's literally 10 minutes in and already a repetition of moves. Obviously, this was against Wei Yi, who had beaten Andrea Sapienko in the previous round, and he was just happy to be on.
That's crazy, man.
But that's another Grandmaster skill, is forcing a draw with white. Because not everybody will be able to force a draw with white so easily. But this guy did. So yeah, with that, he won the tournament with a sparkling 10.5, or was it 10 points out of 14 rounds. So 6 wins and 8 draws. And honestly, a lot of those draws came from the fact that he just basically had given up, or like he didn't really care. Like he just wanted to get out of there.
What was his performance rating?
Performance rating was about 2,900 or something. Let me just take a quick look. I can't read it, unfortunately. Oh, I can read
It says 29. It says 29.
Let's see. Yeah, 2908. So very
Yeah,
sparse.
because I know in the first 5 or 6 games it was like 3150 or something crazy.
Yeah, and obviously
actually-
tournament standings it was like 3,100. I'm not even kidding. It was like 3,000 or something rated. So
Yeah.
over here, obviously at first place winner was Sindarov. Anish Giri got 8.5, which actually is a winning score. People have won the candidates on 8.5, but it just wasn't enough in this case. +3 usually is a really good score to end on, though. And Caruana won his last round game in a nice Sicilian win, but against the lowest rated player, Andrei Supienko, but it wasn't enough to even get him second. And Wei Yi managed
But
to come back in.
did Espinko win a single game?
No, both the 2600s didn't win a single game.
That's unfortunate.
And that's ironic because he was actually giving Sindarov the most stress in their first round game. He was objectively better and threw away under time pressure. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this event recap. As time proceeds, I will hopefully be doing more Gukesh and Sindarov trailers as their World Championship matches approaches in an unknown location yet, but hopefully sometime later this year we'll know. And yeah, I hope you guys will be back for that. And
When is that?
I think it's later in the
Late this
year.
year?
I think it's later in the year,
Yeah.
like maybe November, October. But when that does happen, we'll actually do each round, a separate video for each round.